Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be another book review, and today it's going to be Murder on Parade, which is a Murder, She Wrote novel. This one is written with the help of Donald Bain, who did sort of the start of, well, majority of the Murder, She Wrote books. And this one I purchased on Vinted, and it's actually an ex-Rotherham Public Library book, which is funny, so that's why it's sort of covered in plastic here. But I thought I would do a book review on this one because I really enjoyed it. Obviously I gave it 5 stars, so it was almost like a 5-star plus book for me, and it's definitely one of my top Murder, She Wrote books that I've read, so I had to come on and review it for you. And from the picture on the front, you might be able to tell it is set around 4th of July, so I'm recording this at the start of June, so this is perfect to pick up in the next few weeks if you want to read it around 4th of July. And yeah, let me read you the back of the book and then I'll go into some of my thoughts. Cabot Cove annually hosts an elaborate 4th of July celebration, and this year is no exception. Between historical reenactments, parade floats and the fireworks show, the community is abuzz with activity and enthusiasm. No one is more enthusiastic than the town's newest resident, corporate mogul Joseph Lennon. He's been waving his wealth around ever since he set up his headquarters on the waterfront property, influencing both business and politics in his desire to give Cabot Cove an unwanted 21st century makeover. Lennon's insistence on financing a fireworks extravaganza to rival New York City's has caused a bit of a stir among many folks who feel that the town is losing its identity and traditions. The July 4th festivities begin and end in successful, spectacular fashion, but before the night is over, joy returns to horror when Lennon's lifeless body is discovered floating in the water outside his office complex. When the autopsy reveals he didn't die from drowning, Jessica has no choice but to investigate her fellow Cabot Cove citizens to find out whether one of them is capable of murder. So, first off the bat, it's set in Cabot Cove. That are some of my favourite Murder, She Wrote books. I love the small town vibe. You get the recurring characters, usually of Seth Hasler, Amos Tupper. In the books you get Mort as well, who is the newer sheriff. And so I knew going into it that I would probably quite like it just from the location and the setting. So like it says, it leads up to 4th of July, everyone's really excited, they're in the town preparations, and Joseph Lennon is this big entrepreneur who has brought his company and his wealth down to Cabot Cove, and you know, with that comes pros and cons, and people are sort of against him kind of bringing his money and making this small cozy town where everyone knows each other and sort of turning it into a money-making scheme and, you know, seeing an opportunity to make money from the town. And so really it's no surprise that the owner of this, Joseph Lennon, is the guy that we find is murdered. And the murder actually doesn't happen until about 1/3 of the way through the book. So if you like a book that has an introduction to a murder or the plot twist very early on, you might not appreciate that aspect of this book because it's not until about 120 or so pages in that the actual murder happens. For me personally, I was quite happily just reading along, getting the setting, getting reintroduced to all the characters again. I mean, there are some like thriller elements to it before the murder happens, so it's not like nothing happens. It's not, I didn't feel like it was a slow burner, but I could see how maybe some people might think it could be, obviously just because the murder happens further along in the book. And so when Joseph is found dead, everyone's first sort of suspects go to Chester, who is a resident in the town, and he has been very outspoken about not liking Joseph or the company that he's brought along. And so obviously he's arrested straight away and they are trying to pin it down on him. And Jessica, being the very lovely, good-natured woman she is, sees him as innocent, you know, innocent until proven guilty, and she thinks, you know, he may recently have been quite outspoken and people sort of think, oh, he might be, you know, turning to alcohol. She's of the mindset that he has been a very good, long-standing resident to the community, and thinks everyone is maybe jumping too quickly to a obvious and quick solution for this murder. So alongside that storyline, you also have the storyline of Seth Hazlitt, the resident doctor who we all know and love. And when Joseph came with his company, he also brought and was kind of a sponsor for Dr. Warren Boyle, who is coming. He's a bit younger, he's bringing all this sort of fancy new machinery and new tests and things, and it's starting to pull Seth's business and his patients away from him. And obviously Seth is quite disheartened by that. He's thinking, is his time up in Cabot Cove? Should he sell his practice? Because obviously everyone is starting to doubt him as a practitioner and going towards this new fancy Dr. Boyle, who obviously has had a lot of money injected into his company. So from the start off, I found this book really easy to sort of follow along and question all the different characters. You're immediately thinking, oh, did someone in his business do it? Is it someone in his family? Is it, someone that wants to take over the company? Are they the reason behind shooting Joseph? Your mind, this book is really good at getting you to question all different types of people. And one person I very heavily questioned actually was Rick, who is an ex-FBI agent, and he is someone that Jessica met a couple of years ago at some sort of event, I think, and so we obviously just assume that he is, FBI, he is who he say he is. But from the start I had a little niggle about him. Like, he seemed very pushy about being really helpful and, offering his services to the police force. And I don't know whether I was sort of criticising everyone and maybe looking into it a bit too much, but I did question him at the start. I won't say whether my questioning was right or wrong, but judge that as you will, as you read it. And yeah, I just found this a really cozy, lovely book. I was really, kept gripped by it. It's not one where you get, if you know Murder, She Wrote books, you're not going to get, lots and lots of thrillers and twists and turns, but the writing has a way of keeping you engaged throughout, and I could not put it down. And the more Murder, She Wrote books that you read, the more you get to know the personalities. And there was a very sort of witty humour bit, I remember, towards the end, where they're confronting someone and there's kind of a little bit of a fight in the restaurant, and someone says, "Oh no, have I been stabbed?" And then I think it was Mort, he turned to them and was like, "No, you've just been hit by spaghetti sauce, get over yourself." So I really enjoy those humour elements, and I also like how you can not only sort of follow along with the book, but you're also getting Jessica's, obviously, her first-hand sort of theories and her questioning. The writing is very good in the sense that it teases you as to her thoughts, but she doesn't obviously outright say it to us as a reader, this is who I think is guilty. You sort of just see her plan woven out, and you see it happen, and obviously the big reveal happens at the end. So I would say if you did like A Fatal Feast, which was set around Thanksgiving in Cabot Cove, you're going to like this because it's got those sort of same elements to it. You've got those recurring characters, so there's not as many characters that you're newly sort of introduced to and have to learn. So if you do find, when there's multiple characters and you find it hard to keep up with them, I would say sort of the ones that are set in Cabot Cove are easier to follow. And I forgot to mention, in this book, even though it's set later on, and obviously at some point Mort took over from Amos as sheriff, Amos does come back in this book, and we learn that he had retired and gone to Kentucky. So with any of the Murder, She Wrote books, you can read them out of order. They will always sort of recap bits about characters and plot, crucial plot bits, like Amos being retired. They will come back to that. So like I said, you can read them out of order. It just depends on, it doesn't necessarily spoil things. Like, there was one sort of little bit in this book where we were introduced to a character who has obviously been mentioned in another previous book, and it was more, I think it was set in Alaska, and it did kind of give some of that plot away a little bit. By the time I go and read that Alaskan book though, I would have forgotten about whatever was discussed. Like, I can't even remember what it was now. So it's just something to be mindful. They don't necessarily give away a whole plot and it's like, oh no, I now can't go and read that book. I maybe wouldn't read it straight after reading this book, but for the most part you can read the series out of order and it doesn't have too much impact on sort of the enjoyment of reading the books. So let me know down in the comments what you thought of this book, if you've read it or if you plan to read it. Let me know what you think, drop me a comment, and yeah, make sure that you stay followed to my channel if you want to see more book reviews, more Murder, She Wrote book reviews, and I will see you very soon. Bye guys.